You are listening to the Optic Blast Broadcast, a hipster goblin media production.
Previously on Optic Blast Broadcast, the broadcast dudes skateboarded the sewers of New York City and explored the world of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with a review of The Last Ronin. If you hadn't had a chance, go check it out. Now it's time for episode 7. This episode, we step into the jungle, where the hunter becomes the hunted, where it's hard to determine exactly who is the prey. An adamantium fighting machine with a healing factor battling it out with a galaxy-crossing headhunter with powerful tech to drop even the most dangerous of foes. We jump into the comic book crossover that we didn't know we needed with Wolverine versus Predator. As always, I am one of your hosts. I am Lockman, and I'm joined by my dude, Dylan.
And Blake, I'm super excited for this episode because, like you said, this is a crossover we did not know that we needed.
Nope.
Man, I am very, very excited to get into it. So, before we do that, though, if you've watched an episode of the Optic Blast Broadcast before, you know that we always like to kick it off with some comic news. So every time you tune into an episode of the Optic Blast Broadcast, you can expect some of the latest and greatest news from beyond the comic verse. And it is a huge, huge time to be a DC fan, especially when it comes to the big media universe, I suppose you could say, especially with James Gunn taking over a lot of the stuff going on at DC and Warner Bros. The DCU has some cool things coming, and also beyond that. And so the first thing to kick off comic news today is going to be the highly anticipated Batman spinoff show starring Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell.
Farrell, yeah.
Okay, that's how you say it. That's how you say it. The Penguin got its first trailer about 2 weeks ago, and it's looking really, really promising. I'm super excited about it. I watched it, and I thought it was cool because, as far as we know, I don't think it's going to involve Robert Pattinson's Batman at all.
Right.
So it's just going to be centered strictly around the Penguin and his story. So I thought that was really cool. I'm very excited for it. I love that whole universe, and to get more of it finally, I'm very, very much looking forward to it. Blake, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I really liked, I think we talked about it a little bit when we did our Batman episode, but Robert Pattinson's Batman was great. And the Penguin was awesome in it. I'd be interested to kind of see, I've always hoped or wished they would focus a little more on the like underbelly gang side of Gotham, like the Long Halloween Batman books, like that. They are very good about it, but like the gangs and all the like thugs and everything that happened in the underbelly of Gotham is like some of the most interesting stuff. So to have a whole show kind of like set up around that drama with either, I don't know really the point of the show other than maybe showing just how, you know, the Penguin runs a lot, dude. Like he does a lot. So and Colin Farrell was great as the Penguin. And so very excited. That's going to be really cool. And I bet they do like some kind of, like maybe Robert Pattinson's not actually in it, but you know they're going to, if it takes place during the same timeline, they got to reference the Batman, dude.
Oh, yeah. So I think, from my understanding, I could be completely wrong about this, but I believe it's going to be mostly just about like his coming to power, essentially.
Okay, gotcha.
So I don't know how far back it'll be, but I know Robert Pattinson, I believe he was like in year 2 at the time of the movie, or year 3 or something like that.
Yeah,
so
pretty early in his career.
It was still pretty early. So it could be, you know, it honestly probably maybe towards the end of the show, it could start hinting at some Batman stuff. But I mean, I think it'd be cool. I would love for that. Because I've been, ever since that movie came out, I've been itching to get some more of that universe. I'm super excited for it. So
yeah. Very good.
So our next piece of news, though, today is, again, something that I'm also very, very excited about. So I'm a huge fan of all the comic book movies that James Gunn has done. Like Guardians have always been great. His adaptation of the Suicide Squad, I thought, was phenomenal, especially compared to what we got originally.
The first time around, yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. What an improvement.
Yeah, I think James Gunn, he has a very unique and great understanding of the comic book world. It's very goofy. It's very like that old school comic book vibe where everything is just very vibrant and flashy and kind of pulls you in, and it's very it's not so dark and grim, I feel like, which as much as I love those dark and gritty and grim comics, I think the over the top kind of goofy, very bright comic book style is also very entertaining. And I think that's what James Gunn seems to be leaning towards, especially when he comes out with his movies that he's producing. But we also know that he can give that dark, gritty story. If you watch Guardians 3, like I feel like that's kind of what we got from that. So I think he does a great job with those. So with that being said, the very first movie that is going to be coming out under his DCU that he is, I guess, calling it, is going to be the new Superman movie. And we got some like pretty big set leaks of the photos. So he kind of revealed David Cornsweet, I think that's how you say his name, his like Superman outfit originally, like it's probably been a couple months or maybe a month or two, I think, but since he released that. But now we're seeing more set photos and him actually in the suit, not just as Superman but also as Clark Kent, and which I thought was really cool. And we also got that was a bit of a surprise to me, was seeing a very comic book accurate Mr. Terrific.
Mr. Terrific, yeah, I saw those, man. That was cool. I was like, dang, I didn't know they were gonna bust Mr. Terrific out. Okay.
I thought that was super awesome seeing those, and I'm actually a big Mr. Terrific fan from the CW adaptation. I thought he did a great job in that. I forget the actor's name, but I thought that was really cool seeing him. So that got me very excited. I don't know. I'm very interested to see what James Gunn and Peter Safran cook up in this new DCU, and this is just continuing to get me excited for it. So,
yeah, I'm with you there. I think the Snyderverse was so dark and so gritty and so gloom that it lost a lot of the brightness and the hope and the positivity of comic books. While I do actually like the stuff from the Snyderverse, I understand it's its own realm of things, right? So I love to see James Gunn come in and make something interesting for Superman. Man of Steel I thought was a great movie, but it was good, but it was just such a drama. And I'd love to see Superman be kind of more relatable. Having Mr. Terrific as part of the cast, and like him and Superman are standing together, so they're obviously working together. I think Superman is a character for me personally, and this is probably like Superman fans are going to be mad at me, but that's okay. We can all have different opinions. I don't think Superman for me is interesting enough as a character to be alone in a title. I like Superman when he's in a team with people, but I feel like he needs to be with other characters for me to make him be more relatable. He's just so strong. He's just too powerful for me, unless he's in a team setting. And then I kind of feel like they kind of pull out the best of Superman. Like Superman, Batman paired up in the comics all day, every day. It's great. Superman, Nightwing paired up, like any kind of like team up with someone. I really like, it helps me get into Superman more. So I'm excited. Mr. Terrific. Like, I just didn't see that coming. So.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with you. I think seeing Superman team up with other superheroes is always great. So I'm really, excited to see what this evolves to, because I'm hoping they take more of the MCU approach with this, where they're building the characters and then they all come together, instead of what they try to do with the Snyderverse, where it was just like, all right, we're just going to make this big, huge movie, have Zack Snyder direct it, and it's going to be this huge thing. And I feel like that was part of, like, there was no build up. It was just, here you go, this is what you got. And I think that for me was my biggest issue with the Snyderverse. I love Zack Snyder. I think he has a lot of great films, but I feel like I don't necessarily fault Snyder for what he made. I think what he made was great, especially with the Snyder cut. I just think that it was too, they didn't do any building, and I think that was the beauty of the MCU. So, but again, I'm super excited to see what James Gunn is cooking up. And continuing that, he also recently announced that they are greenlighting a Lantern series that's going to be on HBO. And it's
wow.
going to be basically, we're just going to see Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan kind of uniting, and it's going to be a whole new series just all about the Lanterns. Not a whole lot has been said about what the actual story is going to be about, but like I said, it will be, I think, like an 8-episode series. Potentially, I mean, they may redo other seasons, but the first season is going to be 8 episodes, and it's going to be on HBO. So, or I guess it would probably be on Max, but it's like an HBO show. So yeah, that's going to I believe it's going to be set all in the same universe, I would assume, because it's going to be part of that DCU. So
yeah, and DC was smart to hire James Gunn, I think, to come in and like that's what you need. You need a visionary director to oversee all your multiple projects you have going on. If that's what you want to build, right? Like MCU had that. I think that's where MCU is hurting right now. They built everything up to this huge crescendo, which was beautiful of Endgame. I mean, everything built up to that, and it was awesome, and it was 10 years in the making. But after that, they feel pretty deflated now, right? Like, well, crap, now what do? And you go see and you see all these different MCU shows, MCU movies that have come out post Endgame, and that they lack that cohesive gel of like coming together. So James Gunn jumping over to DC and being that guy to guide that, I'm just real excited to see what they come up with.
Yeah, I definitely second that for sure. But I believe that is all I have for comic news today. Like I said, if you're a DC fan, I mean, it's time to get excited because I really feel like they're cooking up something good over there. So I can't wait to figure out and experience all of what that is.
That's right.
But with that being said, you know what time it is, Blake?
Oh, snap. It's toy time. All right. Here at Optic Blast Broadcast, we love everything about comic books and the worlds they build, especially the toys. Now, today, if you're listening to this on the podcast or on the Spotify or one of the streaming services, welcome. We're glad you're here. But this episode's going to be kind of like leaning a little heavy towards the actual visual broadcast side of things. We're going to get a look at 2 commercials. We're going to look at 2 commercials from the 90s, the epic Kenner toy lineup. So if you're a kid in the 90s like me, Kenner made a lot of cool toys, but they did this really cool lineup of Alien versus Predator toys. And so we've got the commercials. We've got them queued up. We're going to look at them, check them out, and talk about this awesome lineup of toys that was out in the 90s. So go ahead. If you're streaming, just make a note. I got to go check this out on a visual video and see what these guys are watching here. So Dylan's getting it queued up for us here. Here we go.
All right, here we go.
These steel-jawed beasts have a hunger for destruction. Can they be stopped by the ultimate galactic Predator? The battle is on. Aliens versus Predator, the hunter against the beast. An alien killer attacks, but the Predator crack tusk fires shoulder-mount missiles, and Predator scavenge attacks with a double-barreled bola, each sold separately. Will the Predator win the battle against the evil aliens? Aliens versus Predator. Now get a special 2-pack with an exclusive Dark Horse comic.
That came with the exclusive Dark Horse comic.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So these toys, that was the first one. So these action figures, when they came out in the 90s, I actually had the one that shot the double barrel that wrapped around, and I was digging through the toy boxes trying to find him. I don't have any of his tools anymore or anything, or any of his weapons. I just can't find him. He's around here somewhere. I've seen him like in the last, several months, but he's probably got his invisibility cloak on. And so I can't find him. That's probably what it is. But anyway, those toys were so cool. There was a video game that came out. It was a beat 'em up style game, and it was Alien versus Predator beat 'em up, just like those Ninja Turtles beat 'em up games. But you could be like Predator, or you could be like these Marines, and you were fighting like hordes and hordes of aliens coming at you. And when I was a kid, that was like the coolest stuff. I grew up in the 90s. Alien was like Aliens, like these movies were huge. Predator 2, like all these movies were so huge. And like we didn't get, this is like probably some of my first memories of crossover type things. Like in Predator 2, the only scene I can remember from the whole movie is the very end when you get inside Predator's ship and you see all the skulls, and one of them is one of the xenomorph, like one of the aliens. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, they're in the same universe, you know? So these toys were so cool for that. That came with a Dark Horse comic. I never knew that. I never saw that as a kid, but definitely some awesome action figures. Do you have another trailer or another commercial?
I do believe so. Let me go ahead and get this next one pulled up.
I think this one has the figure that all the kids in the neighborhood wanted. It was like a glow in the dark Predator. I think he's in here somewhere.
Yep, I believe it is in this one. Let's go ahead and get it pulled up. And
Aliens versus Predator. Clan leader, king of the Predators, battles with whipping dreadlocks and stalker glowing in the dark.
Oh.
Here, suddenly, flipping up his spikes, the new wild boar alien attacks, each sold separately. Who will survive? Aliens versus Predator.
I like Predator. Aliens versus Predator.
I thought that was so funny how I had like the dreadlocks and it was like.
Hey, dude, I'm growing my hair out so I can have dreadlock action attack my enemies. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, like I said, these figures were really cool. Did you ever knew about these?
No, I've never seen these before at all.
Yeah.
They look pretty sick, actually. I feel like the old recording and 480p doesn't quite do them justice. I'm sure if I actually got to see that in my hand, I think it'd be a little even cooler. But yeah, they look pretty sick.
Yeah, dude. So, I hate to be old man Lockman here and be like, back in my day, it was better or whatever. But there is at least some things you can say that about. We didn't have the internet. And we did all of our ads for toys came on after school while you're watching cartoons. So when you got off the bus, there was always like Fox Kids was watching cartoons. I mean, every channel had like Tiny Toon Adventures. Like there was always some kind of cartoons on when the kids got home from school. And then Saturday morning was your Saturday morning programming. That was like the prime time new episodes are dropping on Saturday mornings. And in between every cartoon and every commercial was the action figures or toys or Nerf guns or Super Soaker commercials just like those. So when you'd see those commercials as a kid, the whole point was to make you want to go get those toys. Like you got to go tell mom, there's a new toy, right? They just came out. And so like, I love seeing like old commercials like that. Cause it kind of takes me back to like getting stoked when you first see a new, I don't really see like, you ever see action figure commercials anymore? Like, not really,
I feel like there probably are some. I feel like, but I mostly do streaming stuff, so I don't really see a lot of the new toys that are out. But if you just simply go to the Walmart toy aisle or the Target toy aisle, it's just not what it used to be. And I think that, you don't see very many action figures. Even if you do, it's just very like, it's just not cool. There's not much to them. They're just like poorly made. Most of the time poorly made. Sometimes there's some good ones, but like little wannabe action figure that looks whatever character that it's supposed to represent. But I don't know. I definitely, even though I'm younger, I still feel like today compared to whenever I was a kid, it's still not quite that same feeling going to the toy aisle. And it's just like, man, where'd everything go?
Here's how I know it's like totally different. And like you're in my brother's generation. So like I got to kind of see your generation grow up as like the big bro to the younger, to my little brother. He was into action figures. He loved action figures. And like, so he had same thing. He had like the commercials and he had the fun. And like, I gave him all my hand-me-down action figures, which is really cool. When he moved in with us years later in his 20s, my daughter was like 2 or 3 and he gave her those same action figures came back. So like now they're the ones my kids play with. But like, here's how I know, like I go to like say I take my kids with me. I got a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old. And I'm like, hey, we're at Walmart. Hey, you guys want to go down the toy aisle? And they're both like, breaking my heart here. Like when I was a kid, I was like, Dad, can we go to the toy aisle now? Mom, can we go to the toy aisle now? No, we got to get groceries first. Mom, can I go to the toy aisle? No, not by yourself. Like I like couldn't wait to go see what was over there, man. But it's just different generations. Now kids are, they have so many more, I think like video games and tablets, or like, just different ways that they play. And but we still hold strong in the Lockman household. We play with action figures last night. I mean, we make sure we get it in, man. But yeah, these Predator toys, the one that shot the two things that wrapped around, I had that one. The mask could come off. It came with weapons. I mean, it was awesome. He was bigger. Like the toys were bigger than like your normal standard action figure size. So I would take like little G.I. Joes, which they were like 4-inch, I think. And then Predator was like huge. And he would wreck shop. I would just play the movie Predator with my action figures. I actually ended up accidentally cutting a G.I. Joe in half one time because I was like stretching him and it just broke the band. And I was like, dude, Predator, he's killing people. But yeah, so Predator action figures, they were really cool. I didn't really have many of the aliens. My buddy had some of the aliens. He had like this big queen alien, and you actually could like put a Predator in it, and like ooze would like fall all over the Predator or something. I kind of remember that. But yeah, Aliens versus Predator, really cool series of toys. And the video game, I don't know where you could play the video game now, but there's a beat 'em up game, Alien versus Predator. If you love beat 'em ups are my favorite genre of game. I know that's such a simple game. I don't care, dude. That's where you put the quarters in the arcade. X-Men, Ninja Turtles, Alien versus Predator, beat 'em ups are where it's at.
Yeah, I think they came out with a Alien versus Predator game that was like for the 360 or something. And I played a little bit, and I also watched I think it was the first Alien versus Predator movie. I love that movie. I think that was I'm a big fan of the Alien versus Predator stuff, especially Predator movies. I love those. The Aliens, I've never really gotten into Alien movies that much.
Right.
I know like a lot of people from like especially like, what was it, like probably like the 80s or something, when the Alien movies were probably coming out in the 90s. But yeah, Predator has always been like, I used to watch those as a kid. Like I would go to my grandma's house. She had the first and the second movie, and we used to watch it over there all the time as a kid, and it would freak me out. The second movie, actually, I was terrified because there's this scene where they're like in an apartment in the city, and all the bodies are like hanging from the ceiling and all skinned.
Yeah, skinned.
As a kid, I'm like probably 8 years old watching this scene, and I'm like that scene in particular scarred me for life.
Yeah. Those movies. So they as we drift out of toy time, we'll talk a little bit about these. Talk a little bit about these movies. The movies. So action movies were huge in the 80s and 90s. Like that's probably one of the top genres was action. And so Predator is kind of this mix between action and horror. And you have the very first Predator movie. Like look at that cast, dude. Like all the dudes that are in the military fighting Predator are these huge, tough guy. Like you got Jesse Ventura is in there. Freaking Arnold, of course, is in there. Who else is on that roster? I'm trying to bring them back to my mind now. But these were your tough action guys, and to see them get freaking rocked by one monster in the jungle that had all these crazy cool weapons and aliens, not to be confused with Aliens, a series. It was popular too, but just aliens in general, like outer space monster stuff was really hot then too. So it was like crossing like two really big worlds together. And it, dude, awesome movies. I love them. Yeah,
for sure. I think movies like that, the old like action movies or action hero films, like are kind of slowly becoming like not much of a thing anymore, which honestly is kind of sad to me. I'm a big action hero fan, especially when it comes to the Predator movie. Like that very first one, I feel like they just aren't really made that often anymore. You got some of the older dudes, like, Arnold's still doing his thing in some of his movies. You got Sylvester Stallone out there doing his thing in some of his movies, but those guys are getting old. We don't really have any new action hero guys really coming in that are coming up.
Yeah, man, it's kind of a genre that is all nostalgic now, but like I would say probably like the closest thing, of course, the Expendables, because it's all those old dudes. But like John Wick is probably like that like is a newer movie but Keanu Reeves, he's no youngin,
Yeah.
but the John Wick movies are like, they take me back to like the cool action movies I grew up on. There was no business for kids in the 80s and 90s and stuff to grow up watching these crazy action over the top movies. But that's what we were raised on. And it was, I really kind of miss like those kind of action flicks. I've seen like some trailers for some movies recently that I'm like, hey, that's kind of like, that's my favorite genre. So like, I think like maybe superhero movies kind of took a little bit of the place because they're just like kind of like silly action. But I'm with you, man. I miss the old school stuff. I miss the John Wick's a good example. What's the plot of the movie? They killed his dog and now he's on revenge. Okay, cool. That's all I need. I don't need much of a reason.
Yep.
All right, we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about more about the Predator movies, get more into detail about these things. We're gonna do a fun kind of a video here that Dylan found of a superpower beatdown. But first off, we're gonna go to break, and we'll be right back. All right. We are back from break. We got to the chopper, and here we are. We're gonna do a kind of a live reaction. Dylan found this video from Superpower Beatdown. Definitely some cool stuff in there. You want to see some awesome beatdowns, some awesome battles. One that Dylan kind of told me about that had me already like, all right, I really need to check this out. Is Casey Jones is in one. So I was like, dude, Casey Jones is my dude. I'm gonna have to check these videos out. But anyway, without further ado, I'll let Dylan do his magic producer thing.
All right. So yeah, as Blake was kind of saying, this is called Superpower Beatdown by the channel Bat in the Sun. And this is like 10 years old and it's actually really produced really well, I think. And I thought it was really cool. I think I mentioned it like 2 episodes ago, I want to say.
On the Daredevil podcast, on the Daredevil episode, I think me, you, and Ryan were talking about it, and I think you brought it up.
Yep. I brought up like the whole channel and like how they do these superpower beatdown things. So I think this one's really cool. I've already seen it, but Blake hasn't.
This is a live reaction, man.
Yeah, this is a live reaction. So
I'm gonna warn you guys. Like, if you've ever gone to a movie with me, like my friends know this about me. I get very hype watching stuff. Like I yell in the movie theater. So anyway, this might get wild. I don't know, bro. We're gonna see.
All right. Well, let's get it going.
I heard him in the woods. Dude, this production quality is really good.
Especially for something that's like fan made. I think it did a great thing.
Yeah. Oh. Zapped him. Oh yeah, dude, this is sick. This is good right here. That's right there, 1985 quality. It's good. Whatever year it came out. Oh, snap. Just walk up on him. I like how much bigger Predator is than him. That's awesome. Oh! This is sick, man. Uh-oh. Lost your cannon now. And the healing factor. Oh, gloves are off, baby. Let's go. One ugly mother trucker.
I thought Beast was ugly.
Ceremonial dagger. We learned about that. Oh, through the head. Well, night, buddy. I love it. That is awesome. Oh, man.
I need a beer.
Let's see how the fans voted. We have 16.
I need a beer. That's the most Wolverine line in the whole thing, man. That's awesome. So, all right, I have a few things. So, first off, that's fan made. That is incredibly. That's so impressive. That like those suits. I mean, the special effects, everything were awesome. And you said it came out like 10 years ago.
Yeah, it came out. Yeah, exactly 10 years ago, I think.
Dude, that's awesome. I didn't even look to see this Wolverine versus Predator series that we just read for this broadcast. Like, what year did that even come out? I don't know. But
I think it actually came out like last year or something.
Yeah, pretty like recently, right?
Yeah.
Here, I gotta pull it back.
I thought was we'll get into
2023, yeah. But yeah.
We'll get into spoilers a little bit later in the show, probably. Yeah. But I was like, I've seen this before as I was reading it. I was like, yeah, okay.
So, as the writer 10 years later makes this, or 9 years later, because they made it last year, he probably definitely watched this, because there's some stuff that was like I was thinking in my head, like, hold on, that comic we just read is not 10 years old. Like, did they like make this YouTube, like this battle after they read the comic? I was like, well, there's no way. I don't think the comics is that old. So I think we might find ourselves the other way around, but we'll get into it, I suppose. Yeah, I definitely love that. That's awesome. And I'm definitely going to go check out some of the other episodes that they have, because they put a lot of heart and work into that. I love how big Predator was and how like that was accurate. Like, Predator's like this NBA sized dude. And then you have little Wolverine fighting him. So, yeah, that's epic, dude. Thanks for showing that. That's a really good one.
Yeah, for sure. When I found it, I was like, dude, this is awesome. I think that might have been the first one that I watched. And then I watched some of the other ones. I was like, these guys do a great job, especially for, like, I mean, I've said it multiple times, but, like, for something that came out, like, 10 years ago and it's fan-made, that it's phenomenal, I think.
Yeah, dude, because that cost them thousands and thousands of. I mean, that had to cost so much to make. Yeah. Just the costumes alone, not to mention all the time editing and awesome, great work, guys from 10 years ago. What channel did you say made that?
It's called Bat in the Sun.
Bat in the Sun.
What they actually do for those, so that whole series, I think you mentioned earlier, but it's called superpower beatdown.
Mhm.
And basically they pit two superheroes against each other, and then they actually ask fans. They go out and ask fans like, "Oh, who do you think is going to win, or who do you think would win between these two people?" And the fans, they vote on it, and then based on those votes, I think they make the video and their kind of like imagination of how that would play out. So
Awesome. I feel like I've just discovered a new channel that's apparently been around for a while.
Yeah.
That I'm going to spend some of my lunch breaks at work on watching some of these battles. So definitely check them out. So there's a plug for them, because that was epic, man. That was definitely epic. All right. So Optic Blast Broadcast, we are endorsing and supporting anything like that. So very cool. All right. We're going to run to another break. And then when we come back, we're going to get into it. Wolverine versus Predator by Benjamin Percy. Little mini series through Marvel and 20th Century Fox. The collaboration that we didn't know we needed. All right. We'll be right back. All right, here we are. We're back from break. All right, it's time. This is Wolverine versus Predator by Benjamin Percy. I went to good old Marvel.com and I checked out the synopsis that they put up as I was looking to write a synopsis, and thought, man, they did way better than I think I could have. So I'm gonna pull this straight from Marvel.com. Here's the synopsis for Wolverine versus Predator. Real quick, spoiler alert: if you've never read this series and you don't want to be spoiled of anything, go ahead. We're going to talk about it. So just so you know, there's your one warning for spoilers. We are going to talk about it. We're going to review it. We're going to get into it. So I will say this, though. It's Wolverine versus Predator. I mean, there's not too much really to spoil. It's exactly that video we just watched. It's exactly what you think it's going to be. Two ultimate awesome beasts just throwing it down on each other, fighting through everything, right? So, all right, here we go. The thrill is the kill. The bloodthirsty saga you've been waiting for. Wolverine has lived one of the longest and most storied lives in Marvel Comics history. Now witness the untold greatest battle of Logan's life against a predator. One Yautja seeks the greatest prey in existence and finds it in Weapon X. From the blood-ridden snows of the Canadian wilderness to the sword-slinging streets of Madripoor, Wolverine and Predator break everything in their paths on the way to the ultimate victory or a glorious death. Superstar writer Benjamin Percy brings the bloodiest hunters in all pop culture to their knees. So that's Wolverine versus Predator. It is available right now if you subscribe to the Marvel Unlimited app. We are big fans of the Marvel Unlimited app. I have definitely gotten back into comics from wanting to get into this broadcast that we've made. And Marvel Unlimited is probably like 80% of my, maybe 70. I have been buying comics again. So, but yeah, most of the stuff I get into and I'm catching back up. And we heard about this series. And I believe we started talking about it with Ryan during the shout out to Horror Ryan over at the Crypt Keepers podcast. But we started talking about the series on that episode. I'm like, man, we got to check this out, man. Wolverine versus Predator. All right. So coming right into it. It's a 4-part miniseries. It's quick. I think I read it over 2 lunch breaks. Dylan, you read it in like an hour and a half or something, right? And the battles, the artwork, the storyline, the way they tie it all together, it's really, really cool to me. I really liked it. What do you want to do, Dylan? Just do like issue by issue or something, right? So issue 1, you're kind of introduced to the battle that starts. You see really young Logan, which I thought was interesting to see Logan like that young in the wilderness of Canada. And it's like, the predators, they come and they're always like headhunters. They're trying to like find the biggest prey they can. The more challenging, the more, they're hunters, just like we have hunters that go out in the African safaris and they try to hunt like the craziest lions or something, like poachers. I'm not endorsing that, by the way. I'm just giving it as an example. But they do those sort of things, and like the more dangerous the beast, the more thrill to the hunt. And that's what these predators do. And they're coming, and this one comes across Wolverine, and so the saga begins. What do you think, Dylan?
Yeah, I thought it was a really cool opening for sure, because like even a little bit before we see like the young Wolverine, it kind of like you see the actual, I guess, current day fight, or they're currently in their conflict. What I'm assuming was like the final one that they had, which we find out later in the series. But in this particular one, I thought it was interesting because it's a very rare occasion we see Wolverine running, being not a predator-like animal. And so we just kind of see him running and kind of retreating and trying to hide in the first, like, it just opens up with that. And then we don't get much more of it until I think the second issue, whenever it expands on what exactly is going on in that current situation. But whenever I first read it, I was like, oh man, he must be really putting in the work, because like you see like his shoulder has like a giant chunk out of it, I think, in one of them. And like on his head there's like that giant gash, and it looks like you can almost see his brain. And I was like, man, he's really beat up. So I thought that was a really cool opening. And like I said, just that dynamic of him considering like, man, I think I'm actually the prey in this situation.
He says like, now I'm the hunted, right? And then I really like this little scene of like the Wolverine. You can see like his skull underneath his vest, but then the Predator's 3 red dots of death right there on him. And you're like, oh boy, these dudes are getting into it. And I do agree. I think it's a cool way to tell the story, is to go from they're in a big battle, which is their final battle, and Wolverine's having flashbacks, and each issue is like a different flashback from a different time that this same Predator has come back to Earth to fight him again and try to kill him. It's like Wolverine is this trophy that he cannot win, and he just keeps leaving and coming back and to fight him. And so Wolverine has different examples throughout his life, because Wolverine's really old. His healing factor slows his aging down a lot. And so he's really old, and like this Predator just keeps coming back to fight him. And so the bouncing back and forth through flashbacks while you're still catching up with the main fight is a really cool way to tell the story. So that was definitely awesome. And you're right. You don't see Wolverine running away from a battle very often. He's always the one that charges in head first because he knows he can heal. But Predator puts in so much work on this dude. He's got to just run because he's about to die. He can't seem to keep up, right?
Yep. And then I think we see him. We kind of go back. I feel like we constantly also see, whenever it comes with Wolverine, him just trying to find some peace in his life. And I feel like he kind of goes into that because he's talking about how he's moved out in the wilderness. He's all alone, and he's just kind of doing woodworking, basically. Like, it's very typical Logan. And then he finds himself at this bar where some dude kind of approaches him and talks about, his like, oh, my son's been kidnapped, I need your help. And then he gets in like that bar fight. Which I thought was cool because like he didn't use his claws at all during that. Like it was literally just him trying to I guess be calm and like de-escalate the situation and be peaceful about it, which I feel like we often see with Wolverine. And he talks about more of that in one of the later issues, which I'm sure we'll talk about too, of him just trying to be like more peaceful and learn how to be not so angry all the time, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, Wolverine is he's been a lot of things, but he's so old. He doesn't have a lot of his memories. Sometimes they come back and he gets them, but he's, as far as he can think and remember back, I mean, his life has been violence and war, and for him to go back and have these memories of battling Predator multiple times are really cool. The guy and him, after the bar, he gets Wolverine to help him go fight, and it turns out the dude was just like messing with him, and he just was trying to get his help so he could like get money or something. And then the Predator just shows up. And there is that one part where they're coming in and like all the bodies are hanging skinned. And like that was cool to me. Like you said, there's that like tragic scene when you're a kid and you see that shows up in the first issue of the comic, and like Wolverine's like, what's going on here? And he's like, oh, it must be those guys. They did that, right? But it was not, of course. And then that's when Wolverine and the Predator have their first battle. Wolverine pops the bone claws on him. He snaps them and they battle. He stabs Wolverine. And like that starts the beef. Like he throws that Predator has that cool looking, like it's like a bunch of like spike type frisbee thing he throws.
Yeah, it was almost like a ninja star kind of thing, but it wasn't actually a ninja star. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like remember the bear like attacks Predator?
Mhm.
Like him and Wolverine are battling. He throws that thing at Wolverine, and this giant grizzly bear just like attacks Predator, and Predator fights the bear and takes the bear's head. And so I guess that's going to be like his trophy from that issue. And then like it just the comic just keeps going through Wolverine having these flashbacks. I really enjoyed the next issue when you get to see Wolverine on the team with Sabretooth and Maverick, and I don't remember who the other two characters were in the.
I think I had them wrote down. It was Cruel
and Jackson.
Yeah.
And of course, they're two throwaway characters. Like they die pretty fast, but Wolverine, Maverick, and Sabretooth throw down. And Sabretooth is loving this like fighting Predator thing. Like Sabretooth's into it. But they wear those black and yellow like Weapon X style suits and like the headset. Like I like that Wolverine when he's wearing that stuff with the gear and he has like the like mouthpiece headset. Like I had like an action figure of that when I was a kid. Like I like that gear. I like that setup. And they're like, those guys are some killing machines themselves. The Wolverine, Maverick, Sabretooth, like that whole group, like they're killing machines. And so they're going on a mission, and all of a sudden the Predators, and when Predator comes back, he's not alone. He like went and got backup, and they come and they have like this huge battle with them, which is a great way to like tie in Wolverine's past. And then you bring in like all the Predators. So that kind of reminded me of, is it Predator versus Alien, the movie, when like all the Predators are fighting all the aliens in like a pyramid or something? Is that the movie? Yeah. Like, so that was cool to me because there's different Predators with different weapon sets and different skill sets. And like, so they kind of get to show some of their individuality and their hunting skills and all that. But I found a good scene here. It's the cover of issue 2 here, where they're all just battling it out in the jungle. Yeah, it's awesome. So it goes, you flash back to Wolverine, you go back to the guys. It's a cool storytelling way. You really kind of think, I mean, at least I did, as I know it's Wolverine, and I know Wolverine, he's a good guy, but it really kind of made me think like, man, like this is just a miniseries, and it's not like really part of like comic book canon. It's like a spin-off thing. So, I mean, I guess they could technically kill Wolverine in this and it wouldn't matter, because Predator's giving him such the business that I'm thinking, dude, maybe Wolverine's not going to make it through this. It could end that way. I love crossover stuff like that. So you kind of don't know. It's so rough. You're thinking like, dang, I didn't know Predator was that. On paper, if you're like Blake, Wolverine versus Predator, I'm like, no joke. No even if, ands, buts, or questions about it. Wolverine. Like Wolverine to destroy Predator. What are we talking about? But then you read the comic, you're like, dang, I don't know, bro.
Yeah, for sure. I think another cool thing about that whole scene of him being up with the kind of teaming up with everybody, Wolverine teaming up with everybody. I think it was really cool because he talks about like how he doesn't have any memory of his first encounter with the Predator, but he's also carrying around his neck the weapon that you were talking about that looks like that I described as like a ninja star thing. He's like carrying that with him, but he doesn't know why. And I guess they assume that the Predator is coming back to take that from him while they're fighting and all that. So I thought that was a little cool added thing about him being memory wiped all the time.
Yeah. I think like, Weapon X erased his memory. And so he's now in the team. And then all of a sudden he's like, I don't really know what this thing is or what these things are, but I can tell it wants this. Like, so I guess the Predator's like checking that on his. And so I think he just like throws it at him or something like, yeah, you want this? Boom, And I will say this, like Wolverine, Sabretooth, and Maverick, they wreck the Predators other than that one. Like it's like this one Predator is such a beast, but the other Predator, they get hurt, they get wrecked pretty bad. But there's just a lot of them. And then it's kind of crazy to me. And like when Wolverine, they meet with the people who are like, they were actually sent there to kill originally, I believe. Mm-hmm. And they're like, hey, we're going to be friends through this because we got to survive these Predators. And I mean, did I read it right? Like, was Wolverine and like the Weapon X people like, all right, cool, we're gonna work together, and then they just like rigged it with explosives?
Yeah. So pretty much what they did was, I think they actually used the weapon. I think that's what they ended up doing, was they used the weapon to lure them into the temple, and then they rigged the whole temple with explosives. And so when they came in there, it just blew the whole place up. And I'm assuming all but the one Predator, they all died.
Yeah, it totally blew them all up. And there was like a scene talking about like these, because I think that took place in like a pyramid style, like buy-in type temple place, and how it used to be used for sacrifice. And then they were rigging the explosives. And like, so I think they sacrificed all those dudes that they were gonna there to kill anyway. And we're like, all right, you guys hold out here and we're gonna, and then they just blew them all up because the Predators were going in after them. So I thought that was pretty crazy. I guess it was like, it might be that issue or the next one, when it shows them meet again, and Wolverine is in the Weapon X facility, and they are, how like the famous scenes of Wolverine where he's like on the table and they're going to fuse adamantium into his body. It's like one of those Weapon X facility scenes, and the Predator shows up again in that flashback. I think that's the end of that issue going into the next one. And I thought that was like, that might be my favorite issue 3, just because like it has such cool, it has like, it does the Madripoor, the Wolverine learning to be like a samurai. People don't really always think of Wolverine like that, but this dude, that's just how like old he's been, how old he is. He has like all this like background fighting experience you don't even think about. You just think about, oh, that guy that pops his claws and fights robots on X-Men. This dude is a legit samurai trained by like one of the greatest. Like he can hold his own with Silver Samurai in a sword fight. Like, dude, Wolverine ain't really the man to be messing with, But I love that. I love that it kind of touches on that. And when he's in the Weapon X facility, the Predator like attacks again. And that's when the Predator realizes he brings that like green spray can with him. And the green spray can is like some sort of acid. And it like melts people's, like if you spray it, like melts that dude's face. And he goes to like kill Wolverine, I guess, because Wolverine's on the table unconscious. And I guess the Predator's thinking like, all right, I've tried to stab this dude. I've tried to like shoot him, but like he keeps living. I'm going to melt his face off. And when he does, he sees the adamantium skeleton. And it says that the Predator now thinks like Wolverine's like, now he knows I'm more of a trophy than he thought I was, you know? And now the Predator's like, all right, I got to get this. I got to put this on my wall. We talked about Predator 2 with all the skulls. He wants an adamantium skull up on the wall.
Yeah, I think he says like the Predator thought he was just a really, a challenging prey, but now he's realized he's the ultimate prey. Yeah. Once he found out that he had like the adamantium and inside of him and all that. So I thought that was really cool too. And seeing Wolverine with no face was awesome.
Yeah, dude, his whole rib cage is like, it's like all exposed because he like sprayed him there too, and his whole head is gone. He's literally just like, he looks like a Ghost Rider with just like a metal head, and that's it in his body, and he's just like laying there. And then Predator takes his body, thinks he's dead, which he probably is at that moment, takes his body, puts it on the ship, and starts flying off. And then Wolverine's healing factor starts bringing him back around. And Wolverine, like, hold on, I got a really cool scene here. I kind of pulled it up of the Predator's looking at his wall of skulls there. And there's Wolverine's body, which you could just see it just has a skeleton head right there. And he's like, all right, I got to mount this thing up on my wall. I finally killed this guy, and man, this skeleton's awesome. But then Wolverine starts healing, and I think like the Air Force or something, they come try. I thought that was a cool line. They're like, hey, you need to go intercept that spaceship, start shooting at it. And they're like, well, what? Why? He's like, well, what's in there is worth more than a whole fleet of F-16s or something. Like, I haven't thought about that. Like how much Wolverine is worth to the military, because how much money they sunk into making him the ultimate weapon. There's a really cool scene here of Wolverine waking up on the ship. And this is what we're talking about. It's literally like half flesh on an adamantium skeleton waking up and going after the ship to try to like get out of there. Wolverine falls out of the ship in orbit. Like they're up in space, like almost out of Earth's atmosphere, and he gets out and falls all the way to the Earth on fire, lands in a heap, like a meteor crash, and all you see is the adamantium skeleton with smoke coming off of it, and the Predator's helmet fell out with him. And that's my favorite. That's my favorite, like art or scene in the whole like series. I think I texted it and sent it to you. Is Wolverine, like they got the helmet from Predator because it fell out with Wolverine, and it shows. Here, I got that pulled up too. It shows that the helmet from Predator, and it says like they took the technology from that, the military did, and they made the helmet that he wears when they train him as Weapon X. And I was like, dude, that's a cool idea to like throw that like Wolverine Weapon X thing helmet in the mix, you know. It was really cool.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I thought that was really cool seeing that too. That I think it's Professor Thornton or whatever, or Horton, Professor Thornton. Yeah, whatever his name is. He like gets inspired by seeing the helmet, and then because I think he says, I can't remember how he worded it, but yeah, he's like, oh, well, he's basically inspired by the helmet, and then makes that the helmet that Wolverine has. I thought that was really cool too. Another thing that was kind of interesting, whenever you're talking about how he fell from the Earth and then landed as a meteor, the impact his body had because he's made of adamantium, like is so great. Because if you kind of look back, it made me think of it just now. If you go back to the beginning of that issue, so in the current time, because at the beginning of each issue, we see the current time kind of going through as they're fighting. Predator blows up the mountainside that Wolverine has retreated to, and he falls into the water. And whenever Wolverine's underwater, he talks about how he's kind of at a disadvantage because the water is kind of a weakness for him because he's so heavy. He weighs so much from the adamantium in his body that it's causing him to sink under the water, and he can't really move. And so I feel like that's probably why that impact whenever he was falling back into Earth was so great. So I just thought that was another cool little added thing about, Wolverine and some of his weaknesses.
Yeah, I don't know. I've read it before. I don't know how much the adamantium skeleton actually weighs, but it's very, very dense and very heavy. This is the strongest metal on their planet, right? Vibranium is the only thing close to it. And the skeleton itself falls. If we fell out of atmosphere, we would burn to dust. We wouldn't hit the ground, right? We would get burnt up as we fell. He re-enters because it's adamantium. It does it, and it just crashes like this huge crater into the ground. That's a really good point. And I never had thought about it like water being a weakness for Wolverine, but like if like you're like in the water and your skeleton weighs like thousands of pounds or however much it weighs, like, yeah, dude, that's going to be really, that's also one of the reasons Wolverine is tiered as a higher strength character, like a little bit more than top tier for like peak human. Like peak human strength is like Captain America, which is like still crazy strong. Like Wolverine kind of falls in those categories almost, but not because of his not because he's like superpowers. It's his healing power, but it's because his body is carrying this giant skeleton and it has to be that strong to carry it. And so his healing factor is always healing his muscles and he's basically weightlifting at all times, So dude is freaking strong. So, and to be able to jump and flip and all the stuff he does carrying all this weight. I mean, we kind of sleep on how strong Wolverine is. Here's that picture I wanted to show. So it has like the alien's mask, right? And then the Wolverine. I love Weapon X Wolverine with the helmet when they're training him. It's like one of the coolest looking Wolverines. I mean, I know his memory is being wiped and they're making him a killing machine, so it's like not a positive thing in old Logan's life. But man, it looks cool. All right, so we got from there. It shows him training in the sword fighting and the samurai, and then it kind of builds up and flashes back and forth to his current battle. I like it that his like instructor is like, the Predator shows up again and it's like, all right, now I'm gonna fight him again. And his instructor's like, you think he's gonna help him because he says something like I can't remember what he says, but basically he makes it sound like, oh hey, we're gonna have to fight these dudes. but he doesn't. He's just like, no, I got to see if he can really take this guy out.
Yeah, that was another kind of thing that I wanted to talk about. In that scene, he like basically is telling him like, don't use your claws, don't use any of your super. Like you need to take this guy out with just your sword. And he also talks about how the predator has been studying the prey. He knows how you're going to react. He knows how because this is the third or fourth battle that he's been in with him. So like he knows you're going to use your claws. He knows your emotions are going to get the better of you in certain situations. Like he knows Wolverine and his master. I forget how you say his name. Is it Moramasa or something like that?
Yeah, I think that's right. Moramasa, I think so.
And so he's basically he's like, you gotta stay calm, cool, collected, and you got to basically become a master swordsman and defeat him like this way, because what you normally would do isn't going to work.
Right. Yeah.
What happens is exactly that. He ends up pulling the claws out, and then we get that surprise part too. Well, actually, I'm going to let you speak on it before we get into the other thing that happens, because I thought that
okay. Yeah, well, it is funny because he says, all the stuff about, the sword, and Wolverine's doing it, but Wolverine is a hothead. Wolverine is like, all right, finally, he's just like, never mind, forget the sword. He just busts his claws out, and they go right back to it like they've done years and years before, and they battle it out. But then all of a sudden, the freaking hand shows up, and Wolverine and his master are like, well, all right, I guess we're going to fight the hand now. The Predator flees. They fight, and the Predator backs off, and then it's all of a sudden it's because they're surrounded by hand ninjas, and Predator was like, hey man, I don't want that smoke of like hundreds of ninjas at once. I'm out of here. The Predator's stealthy. He was just there for Wolverine, and he got hit pretty good by Wolverine, so he just takes off. And then they have to fight the hand, and then it moves from there to a memory. It goes from that memory into another. And this time you see Wolverine standing outside of Westchester, New York at Xavier's mansion, and him and Xavier are on the front porch talking. And all of a sudden the 3 red dots appear from Predator's scope on Xavier's head. And Wolverine saves Xavier. And the Predator attacks Wolverine at the X mansion with the X-Men there. And straight on onslaught attacks the facility. It's like the 80s Wolverine, like Shadowcat's there, and she's wearing like the 80s gear. Colossus has his 80s gear on. Wolverine has his like brown suit on. So it's like that video game, the beat 'em up video game, that the X-Men arcade game. It's like that era of X-Men, like giant issue style. Nightcrawler's there. It's awesome to see the Predator. What does he take Rogue hostage or something for a second? So Rogue's wearing her black and green outfit, and the Predator's holding her by her hair, and he's basically trying to get Wolverine to hey dude, let's fight. It's time to settle this thing. And he tells the X-Men to leave it alone. He tells the X-Men I don't need your help. Death follows me wherever I go, which we hear Wolverine say that kind of stuff all the time anyway, because of his violent past. But this time, literally, the Space Grim Reaper is following him wherever he goes and just killing everything around him to try to hunt him. And so I like that he tries to tell the X-Men to back down. I got this on my own. Do the X-Men ever listen to him when he says that? No, that's their bro. And the X-Men absolutely work the Predator so hard. They just no even Nightcrawler, all of them, they Shadowcat, Predator has no chance against the X-Men together as a team, and they just do their classic teamwork stuff. Nightcrawler teleports them. Shadowcat trips him up. I liked the scene where it wasn't Morph, because we didn't have Morph in the comics, but they had a shapeshifter with them. I think it was Danny, maybe Moonstar. I'm trying to remember who it was now. Comes up like she's Wolverine, and it tricks the Predator. Here, I found the page. You sure you got the right guy? And you can see Predator grabbing him, holding him up here, and it's there's 2 Wolverines. It's because one of them changed, shapeshifted. I can't remember who that is now.
I'm not really sure.
I figured it might be her, but it's like one of those characters they didn't really say their name because you're really focused more on Wolverine and Predator. So Predator leaves. He's like, all right, I don't want the smoke of the X-Men. I'm out of here. And he leaves again. And so then it flashes you back to present day where Wolverine and Predator are battling it out. And so let's kind of get into the last scene. Unless do you want to talk about the X-Men?
Well, actually, I do in that scene. And also, I guess it's kind of also in the previous scene whenever he's still in Japan. But like the Predator, I guess originally it comes in during the Japan scene, but that whole time he is wearing a different helmet because obviously he had lost his helmet whenever they were trying to take down a ship in the previous issue. So whenever he comes in, he has like this skeleton mask on, which I thought was super cool because I'm a huge fan of the movie Prey. I don't know if you've seen that one, but it was like almost like a reboot sort of that they were trying to do. But it was more set during, I'm not really sure. I can't remember what year it is, but it was like basically based around the Native Americans and that time frame. And you get in that movie what people referred to as the feral predator. And I think that is one of my favorite versions of Predator. So seeing him kind of come in with that look, I was like, oh dude, this is sick. Because I love that movie.
Yeah. That's the bear. So the bear head that he cut off, he makes that into the mask, and that's what he wears. And so, because the grizzly bear, that's a tough enemy. So I have not seen Prey. I kind of forgot about it until you just said that. Like, I remember having it on my like to watch list. So I guess I'm gonna have to watch that this weekend. So, I always thought Prey looked awesome. So I just need to see it. So Wolverine and Predator, they have their big final battle. It reminds me a lot of Arnold and Predator's like final battle where like Arnold has to outsmart the Predator. You know, he can't outmuscle him. Wolverine, he's not going to outfight him. He can keep healing, but the Predator has his own way of healing himself too, right? There's that cool scene where Wolverine's like yelling and healing, and the Predator's spraying himself with that green stuff to heal himself too, like kind of cool. But I thought that one scene was really crazy that Wolverine like built a thing of mud to look like him, just like Arnold covered himself in mud, but he stuck his eye, like Wolverine took his own eyeball out and stuck it in there so Predator would think that he was in there. And then like when he went to like stab it or whatever, Wolverine like attacks him and starts slashing him. There's green slime going everywhere. They're battling in the moonlight. There's like this full moon behind them. It's this cool, like the claws are cool. Like Wolverine's claws are slashing him. Predator's claws are slashing him. I saw two different alternate covers when I was Googling this stuff. And one was Predator's claws like on the cover, and it had Wolverine's face in the reflection of his claws. And the alternate cover is Wolverine with his claws out with Predator's face in the reflection of those claws. So I just didn't realize how good of a match, like how good of a pairing this is between these two characters, man. Like they just slug it out. It kind of builds up to the end. And I think like Predator is finally like, all right, you know what? It's time to do what Predators do. If I can't take this dude out, I'm going to do it the only way I know how. And Wolverine has a cool line where he looks at his wrist and he's like, I'm not sure what these things say, but I know a countdown when I see one.
Yep.
And boom, Predator blows himself up. Wolverine is blown up as well, but our boy Wolverine wakes up totally healed, I don't know how many days later, and the Predator is gone. But the sacrificial knife or whatever he had left behind.
The ceremonial thing.
Ceremonial knife. Yeah, he found that. And he has that as like a and I kind of think that maybe the writer did that as like, hey, just in case we want to bring this back, we could have another Predator come and be like, hey, you got our knife, if you wanted to. But
speaking of, I think I mentioned it on our Daredevil episode as well. They're going to be coming out with the Black Panther versus Predator one here soon too. So that'll be very interesting.
Yeah, and that again, like I just didn't know Predator. I loved Predator growing up as a kid. I just didn't know he had the fight in him that he does. This dude can throw down, and he went toe to toe with Wolverine and gave him all kinds of trouble for like at least 4 decades or 5 or more in there that we go through and look. It's like he just keeps showing up and giving him the business, man. I really liked the series. I thought it was super fun. The name is pretty much says it all. You get Wolverine and Predator battling it out. I had a great time with it. It was a quick read. I'm a busy guy, so the quick reads are great for me. It's something I can just pick up and be like, oh wow, it really got that 80s nostalgia action, 80s 90s nostalgia action movie. It kind of scratched that itch for me, you know.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree. I really enjoyed it too. I think having Wolverine being one of my favorite X-Men and then Predator being one of my favorite, like, I feel like I don't really know what you would classify the Predator movies other than like action hero style. But yeah, I mean, I've always loved Predator growing up, and I still do today. Especially, like I said, I love Prey. I think it was a great movie. I hope they continue, which I believe they are coming out with the second one, and I'm very excited for it. But overall, I think it was a great read. I really enjoyed it. I think it was cool, just kind of like you said, they're just kind of duking it out pretty much the whole time. There's not really, I mean, there's kind of a story to it because it's multiple battles over years and years and years that they are, and leading up to just that one battle. But that's literally all it is. It's them just fighting. So I think that was really awesome. So.
Yeah, it's just them fighting over different time periods, right? And Benjamin Percy did a great job with what it was. That's probably got to be a hard thing to write. You know, Wolverine versus Predator is like a straight action comic, but yeah, it was great. That kind of leads me to a little segment that we like to call Proton Cannon. All right, this week's Proton Cannon is a question that came back to me as I was reading the series. Wolverine's healing factor is insane in this series. He literally falls out of a spaceship. His entire body burns away in the atmosphere, and nothing but his adamantium skeleton crashes into the ground, and he heals and gets back up. So I'm like, dude, how freaking strong is Wolverine's healing factor? And from back in my youth, I had to go back and check, okay, what has changed? Because when I was a kid, Wolverine had a healing factor. It was a good healing factor, but it was nowhere on this level. So I kind of had to dig through comics and try to figure out, when did his healing factor like turn like this? Or was this just for this series that the writer did this? So the Proton Cannon is, how strong is Wolverine's healing factor? The answer is kind of like, how strong is Superman? It just depends on your writer. Who's writing this series, who's writing this comic. But it appears to be, it is canon that his healing factor is almost limitless. Like, we really don't know the full limits of it in the comics right now today, what they are. Some of the major feats that we have seen that are canon that Wolverine has survived. This is wild. He has survived multiple times when being reduced to just a skeleton, just like we saw in this series. I remember we were going to do a Civil War episode one day, but there's this guy named Nitro that can blow himself up. And Nitro blew himself up on Wolverine, and it's not like a small explosion. This is like level city blocks. And Wolverine was point blank, and he was reduced to a skeleton, and then he healed and got up. So that's happened multiple times. He's had his adamantium ripped out by Magneto, as we saw in X-Men 97. In the Fatal Attraction series, he's had adamantium put into his body. So the only reason Wolverine got adamantium and all the other people didn't was because he survived the infusion process because of his healing factor. And then he's been nuked with a nuke twice, and he's healed from being nuked. You can hit Wolverine with a freaking nuke. He was at Hiroshima. That's another thing I looked up. I didn't know that. Like, my gosh, dude, Wolverine can heal apparently more than I thought. I thought like he couldn't even like grow back his limbs. Like, you know, Deadpool gets his legs cut off and he grows his legs back. I'm like, well, Wolverine, that can't happen. Well, they don't cut his legs off because the adamantium would stop you from being able to cut through his skeleton. But apparently it has been done in comics where he has lost an arm or a hand when he didn't have adamantium, and it has grown back. So it seems to be almost limitless. But it appears to be, because like my memory is, as a kid, he could not heal like that. Even in the X-Men animated series, you know, Wolverine would walk around with his ribs bandaged up for 2 days and heal fast, but it's not like that. He just heals faster than everyone else. it appears to be in comics that after Fatal Attractions, when Magneto rips out the adamantium that's inside of him, his mutant power, his healing factor goes into like a hyperdrive in order to save him, and it stays in hyperdrive. It almost like pushed his mutation to another level. And so that's from then on, the writers have just been like kind of going ham with Wolverine. When Wolverine died several years ago, the death of Wolverine, the only way they were able to kill Wolverine was they encased him in like molten adamantium, which somehow he still came back from. So you didn't really kill him. You just kind of trapped him for a while, right? So yeah, dude, proton cannon, how strong is Wolverine's healing factor? I mean, as of right now, we don't seem to really have a limit. I mean, you survive getting nuked, bro. You're something else.
Yeah, I feel like that is almost. I know Deadpool, like you were kind of saying, like he can grow back like a lot of limbs and stuff like that. I had no idea that Wolverine was capable of doing that, but I heard that Deadpool, just kind of bringing Deadpool up. I'm pretty sure he was able to come back from, as long as he has like one single cell living, he can actually completely grow back from that, which I think is really cool.
He's like Cell from Dragon Ball Z, dude. They thought they had him, but there was a single cell left and he came back.
Yeah. So I think that, I don't know if that is actually 100% true. I've heard that.
Right.
I mean, that could have just been a confusion thing between Deadpool and the Dragon Ball Z thing. I don't know.
I mean, I would believe it. It depends on who's writing.
Yeah, maybe the Deadpool writers pulled that from Dragon Ball Z and was like, hey, we're going to make Deadpool be able to do this. But yeah, I've heard that he's been able to. And I know in the movie, I feel like we've seen, Deadpool get completely blown up, I think, in one of the movies and come back.
Oh yeah, he blew himself up because he wanted to go see his wife, and the Deadpool did, and then all of a sudden his body like heals back together and he gets sucked back into the thing. Deadpool Wolverine's coming up, man. Coming up July 26th. It's right around the corner. So yeah. But anyway, Wolverine versus Predator. I recommend it. If you like Wolverine and you like Predator, check it out. If you're not into like just straight action and you want like a comic book that has like a deep plot and like some deep drama, then yeah, this is not for you. But if you're an action person and you just want to see Wolverine and Predator just beat the tar out of each other for 4 issues, bro, this is your book. This is your series.
Yeah, sure. I second that. I definitely agree. I think it's great. I think it's something that you should definitely pick up and read. I don't think you should go in expecting some big, important, high stakes level event at all. It's literally just Wolverine and Predator going at it for a couple issues. So I think it's great. I think it was awesome. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, me too. I think the only thing that would have made it better would have been if there was a panel where Wolverine and Predator are fighting, and then all of a sudden Arnold shows up. And then Arnold's just like, come on, I'll do it. And he just like stabs Predator and like, kill me now. Like that would make it better. And then he gets blown up and he actually dies. And then that would have been something. That would have been something else, Blake. This is my own thing here. All right. So, because how did he beat him? Like Wolverine, who has all these crazy powers, and Predator fought for, well, I guess it was a different Predator. That's just the thing. Yeah. It was a different Predator. The Predator that wanted that smoke with Arnold, he wasn't as tough as this one. This one was a beast. This one had revenge, man. He was pride driven. He's like the Vegeta of Predators. He wasn't going to back down from Wolverine. You'll never take my pride. All right, so all that being said, definitely check it out. Our next episode, we're going to kind of keep a little Wolverine theme going. Old Man Logan. This series, really cool series. It jumps you fast forward. It's the movie Logan was loosely based off this series, but it jumps you forward in the Marvel universe of the comics and like explores a Wolverine who has literally lost everything. And he's living in a really crazy post-apocalyptic Marvel world where some of the heroes that you think are heroes are not, and some of the villains are, everything's just crazy. And he's just trying to be old, peaceful, and retired and live alone. But boy, that's never going to be his path. He always gets pulled back into the fight. So we're going to do Old Man Logan, highly regarded as one of the coolest Wolverine stories. So that's going to be next time on Optic Blast Broadcast. Thanks for tuning in. We're glad to have you here. I hope you enjoyed watching the all the videos with us today. If you just tuned in and just listened to it, hey, when you get a minute, go check it out. Check out some of these videos. There's some cool stuff on there. That's about all we've got for today. I just have to say, I'm going to go pop out my Wolverine claws and go watch this movie Prey and see if I think I could take this thing on. That's about it.